Mr. Speaker, it is great to see you back in person. It has been far too long and so much has changed. For one, you are the proud owner of another $10,000 of debt. Yet that is the per capita share of every man, woman, and child in Canada. $380 billion deficit this year. You have a crisis. Now, we will put aside for a moment the fact that the government made the crisis worse by allowing tens of thousands of people from the most infected regions of the world to come into the country after military intelligence warned them of the danger. We will ignore the fact that many of the programs they designed since that time punished businesses for reopening and punished workers for working. 1943, when the government was selling bonds to its people so that it could fight Hitler and Mussolini and Imperial Japan, they put those dollars to work to win the war, and yes, they had a deficit of 23% of GDP in that year. But you know what was different? When our soldiers came back from battle, you might have expected that, exhausted and heartbroken from loss, that they would want to take a prolonged vacation and put it on the national credit card and let future generations pay the bill. But they did exactly the opposite. You know how long it took our grandparents to balance the budget after they got back from the war? 1 year. 1 year more. Yesterday, in his bizarre address to the nation, he told us that spending more actually costs less. I'm not joking. You can look it up. That's what he actually said. Spending more money costs less. You know, it's clearly things now mean the opposite of what they say. This is not 1947. This is 1984. Million missing paychecks. That's the number of people who've lost their jobs since February and have not been hired back. Oh yes, the bankers are very happy. Yeah. They're making all kinds of money these days, Mr. Speaker. But you know who's not happy? The million working class people who no longer have jobs.
Yes.
Who had to come home and sit at the kitchen table with their spouse and say, honey, I no longer have work or a paycheck and I don't know what we're going to do. No government program can replace the mighty force of our 20 million workers, the power of a paycheck, productivity of a job. Everyday Canadians actually want the opportunity to work. That is the only thing that will permanently put food on the table and provide the wealth necessary to fund our cherished social safety net. This government has the worst jobs record in the G7, 1/3 higher unemployment than across the OECD.
These people are crazy. This is going to be a disaster. There's two things that will never be obsolete: a wall and a wheel. Everything else, trouble.
He was seeking to deliver for was his own. They're the ones that received $500,000 from this group, and then he turned around and personally intervened to give $500 million to the group that had paid his family off. And as for getting the work of Canadians done, he's the one that shut this place down for 6 weeks to make sure nobody could get at the truth. Simple question. This is a yes or no. There are hundreds of pages blacked out. Will he remove that ink and let Canadians read every single word? Yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaking of the enthusiasm the Conservatives have for this one issue, they can certainly continue to talk about the We Charity and spin conspiracy theories. We're going to stay focused on delivering for Canadians. And Mr. Speaker, the member from Carleton actually talked about the fact that he doesn't believe in big government programs. We know that from the Conservatives. However, the 8.8 million Canadians that received the CERB, the 3.5 million jobs that have been saved by the wage subsidy, these are the things we've been focused on, and I was very pleased to see the Conservatives unanimously endorse our plan to move forward last night and continue to support Canadians through this pandemic.